I still remember back to the day when somehow or other it came together for me that I was called to be a priest. Like a lot of kids in my generation, being a priest was something that was on the agenda. And, you know, in the way the kids played at being a train driver, or played at being a doctor, or played at being, you know, a footballer, we played at being priest. But that was, I mean, when I was very young. And then it sort of disappeared a little bit. And I suppose faith was always part of my life. One of the things I say, well, thanks be to God, I had parents who were people of faith. They shared their faith with me. They brought me to Mass. They talked to me about Mass. And so I grew up, in a sense, with a kind of an understanding, a child's understanding obviously, but a kind of an understanding of what Mass was and what the life of Jesus was about. And you know, we had the tradition of, you know, going periodically as a family to confession and things like that. So the ministry of the priest was always sort of part of my experience. I thought of doing various different things with my own life, possibly, you know, being an army officer or being a cadet in the merchant marine, and strange kind of things, because they really wouldn't have suited me very much at all. But just, I think at a certain time in my life, and it was partly through the influence of being involved in Scouts and I suppose, you know, growing to a certain kind of maturity around age 15, 16, 17, that I began to think about the possibility of leadership and service. And, you know, the fact that maybe I was called to serve God as a priest. And I started actually out in seminary at the age of 17. I have worked for a while as Director of Vocations, and had the pleasure of accompanying men and women who were considering vocation, and to journey with somebody who's seriously trying to understand what God is asking of them in their lives is a great privilege. And in some cases they discover that they're not called to priesthood or religious life. We had a vocations program in the Diocese of Dublin when I was working there, and you know, some of the young people who did that program did become priests or sisters. One couple actually met on the program and became husband and wife, and now they are the parents of a number of children, and they're very actively involved in their own parish community, and that of course is also vocation. For me, I think the important question I would have always asked young men who were considering the possibility of vocation to priesthood was to try to think not exclusively about what I want for myself, but what is God asking of me? And the reason for that is because I think the heart of vocation is to trust in the goodness of God, the mystery of His love for me, which is such that He will never mess with my heart, that He wants me to do what is good for me, and that what He wants will always be good for me. So I think that the secret of vocation, you know, is to actually be open to that idea that God is good, and that His will is not just something that we have to put up with, but it's actually something that enriches our lives. I think maybe one of the challenges that we have today in our society is that the focus is much more on what do I want to do, what do I want to be, and it doesn't necessarily ultimately lead to our happiness. It sometimes actually leads to our becoming bogged down in the search for things. Pope John Paul said, you know, one of the big challenges of our lives these days is to focus more on being than on having. And I think priesthood is very much about who we are in our relationship with Jesus and in our relationship with the people whom we're called to serve.